Dear friends of Love for Volleyball, Amor por el Voleibol, I'm pleased today to talk with an Italian trainer who has enormous experience and trajectory directing various clubs and national teams around the world. And I mean Roberto Santilli, who is kindly with us today talking about volleyball. Hello, Roberto. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. Just let me thank you for the invitation of this amazing, connection on volleyball all around the world. And I'm very honored to be part of this connection.
Fantastic. First of all, please, Roberto, tell me, when did you start playing or be in volleyball? Where and why?
Oh, I was involved in volleyball when I was very young. Thanks to my older brother that he started playing volleyball before me. Mm-hmm. And then I was like 12, 13. And I was like in love with volleyball from the beginning. Even if I was in love with a lot of different sports, like football and so on, like it's normal stuff in Italy. But and I played volleyball until I was 20. Then something happened, me physically having some problem with my knees, but also, my club had some problem with the senior team. So I decided to move my attention from playing to coaching and teaching, especially the young guys. So we renovate everything on the club, and the club gave me all the responsibility to reset and restart again. And this was a great opportunity because we had some tradition in my old club, and it was a good starting. Then I dedicated all my life from when I was 20 studying at university, physical education, and coaching from the 14 years old to senior players. And this was my beginning. For 5 years I did like full immersion on volleyball.
Okay.
And then after this I began more professional and so on.
Exactly. And getting a few letters back, you told me you began to play very little sport, volleyball, in a country crazy about sports. Italy, I know it's crazy about soccer, football, basketball, so many other sports. And volleyball, I know since the generation of Gianfranco, Lanfranco, and the latest generation of the gold generation of Toffoli, Gardini, all these wonderful players. Volleyball has grown in a massive way in Italy. But you told me you played volleyball as a young person in Italy. How was it for you during school or before you started to train to play in this crazy volleyball country?
Yeah, no, I mean, I started in on my club that, as I told you, get some good tradition on volleyball. Mm-hmm. And I belong to the same generation of the gold generation, like you say, Gardini, Cantagalli, Lucchetta, Toffoli, Zorzi, and so on. So we have the same age, but I switched to coaching much earlier. So I was following them, like, the greatest moment for volleyball, because before 90s, volleyball in Italy was like, a small sport, not so famous. But after we won European Championship and then World Championship for 2 times in a row, then volleyball became, top level. And we were, at that time, we were very, I can't say lucky, but, we deserved to do it. But the main point was that all the best players around the world come to Italy to play there. Yes, so Russian players, Serbian players, American players, and whatever. So for a while in Italy was, was the country for volleyball for everybody. And this moment generate, great success and so on, but also attention by the media. And for us that I was starting coaching was a great opportunity to learn and to see the best players, the one that you nominated before.
Exactly. And
so, yeah,
tell me.
It was the moment, was like 10 years where we really changed everything. And thanks to the generation, but thanks also for the foreigners that come to play in Italy, because everybody loves it.
Exactly.
And was pretty easy.
I had the tremendous opportunity to interview many players who played in Italy, Argentinian, as you told, American, Brazilian players who played in Italy, and it's very right what you're saying about the craziness in Italy about the sport. I had also the opportunity in 1985 in a Junior World Championship to play in Italy, and we were in Bologna and Bergamo and Breccia, and what I saw as a Chilean was incredible. The main infrastructure, the gyms, the media coverage of all the volleyball, even if it was a junior championship, it was fantastic. So how was it for you to start in this media and in this environment, and to project yourself as a volleyball coach? How was it for you in your projects of life?
Yeah, from my point of view, I did start this career very early, like as I told you, I was because I had the desire to reach the highest level of volleyball, and thanks to this strong desire, I was putting all my effort to improve and following all the best coaches. I remember when I was young, I didn't miss any chance to go to take my car, travel somewhere, and go the best coaches coaching, like Velasco, Prandi, and so on.
Yes.
And Doug Peel. So we had really best, personality coaching there, and I was absorbing everything. So this was one very strong point for myself and for my career that gave me the chance to improve my knowledge and also increase my passion and desire for volleyball. So when you grow up in an environment like this, everything became easier, even if it wasn't so easy for me, because in Rome we didn't have so much stronger volleyball team. But if you really want something, then you take your car and you go and traveling and see what the best coaches are doing. And it was the best school for me was the school on the court.
Fantastic. I also remember, as I told you before outside the camera, that when we lived in Germany, my father always told me every weekend there was near where we lived in Cologne in Germany, championships. They came teams from Czech Republic, from Italy, from Russia, and so volleyball is a normal thing in Europe, very different from South America. We are a few countries, and we are so far away each from another. So I understand what you're saying. You're immersed in a volleyball country, in a volleyball continent, a very strong volleyball continent. And how was it for you when you absorbed or were absorbing this great information and experience from these big trainers? How was it for you year by year? How was it in your evolution as a trainer?
Yeah, I started coaching the young guys at the beginning, and then I moved to the first seniors team on the second division, third division. Then I step by step and grew up and arrived in the first division in Italy. And for me was an experience, traveling and coaching all around, because I coached in the south and I coached in the north. And as you can imagine, the big difference is coming from the different culture. Even if Italy is one country, but we have so many different reality, and for me was very good experience. But everything began from the desire that you have. So for what you really want to do, and this push you at the beginning when you're young, to go and overcome the problems and overcome the difficulties and overcome everything, even with no money or even with problems that you can have when you're a young coach. And I think this this made a big difference for me at that time, when I was creating my base of career that then gave me after the possibility to grow up. And I think this kind of desire is something that in common with most of the coaches that then become great coaches in Italy. So this attitude to study the game, to study the details, to be updated all the time and try to catch something from the best people. This was a key. I mean, from my side to grow up, and also after going all around the world, I didn't say this attitude though. I mean, all part of the world, all part of Europe, because most of the countries has their own system and they follow their own system, so they are not so open to catch the different meaning. I know I can tell you in Asia, in Korea, where they think the Korean system is the Korean system and is the right, so they are not so open to the other stuff. But also, Russia is the same way. So Russian, they have their own system and they're not so open on it. We grow up on different way. We grow up to catching and taking everything, all the details, and studying from everybody. So we really grow up as an open mind, and I think this is one of the reason that we have so many Italians coaches all around the world, because we grow up with this mindset that you can improve yourself, that you can learn everything, you can learn from any situation, from any kind of people. And then, of course, if you are lucky, you can have great players and you can be in a good club. That is like, a luck that you need to have. And this was more or less all my time in Italy until 2007, when I then decided to move away. And then I moved to Poland first for 3 years, where I found a very interesting environment there, because they really have a great consideration for volleyball. And it's not what can I say? It's not a surprise for me that Poland became so strong, because when I went there, it was just the beginning of the improvement of the country. But I could catch at that time the real motivation that they have to become, arrive to the peak of the world. And so you can see on the young players how they can commit on practice on volleyball. The focus and the model that they have is to arrive to the top. This was one of the reasons that Poland was so. It gave me so much satisfaction at the time, because you had really the people listening and ready to learn a lot. This was a good combination for me. Then from 2007, Poland became, a great volleyball country, and now is
exactly. And I wanted to ask you, what you're saying is very interesting. Something about as a player, I sometimes try to direct some teams for friends, but to be a coach, it's very difficult. I saw it in my father. I saw it in many friends. It's a very tough work to be a coach. Not every good player can be a good coach. After this, we have some example: Kirali, Gardini, I don't know, Andrea Gianni, who were very good players and are now very good trainers. But it's not always so. How was it for you, or how's your concept to be a trainer? Having so many other trainers and good trainers in Europe, for example, how can you?
I missed the connection for a few seconds. Can you say again?
I was asking you, Roberto, how must it be for you as a coach, as a trainer, to be distinguished or can distinguish from another trainers, because there are so many good trainers in Europe and the world. How can you, Roberto Santilli, and be in one club or one national team and say, okay, that's my system of training, that's my way of viewing and seeing and feeling volleyball? How can you do it in front of so many other trainers and so many systems?
Yeah, I can tell you one thing. I think we can divide the categories of coaches between the one that were great players and they start coaching, fastly high level. So if you had been a great player, you can start from the first division and you can go directly to the top level, like Gianni, like Gerbic, like Gardini, and so on. And another category of coaches that didn't have this pass into the court. So from this point of view, my side, I mean, the coaches belong to these categories. They have to study more. They have to, put more effort in what you do because you don't have the name. So you are nobody. And I remember when I was young, but this, I can make you number of good coaches become great coaches without being players like Giovanni Guidetti here or Angelo Lorenzetti, or the same, Velasco and Prandi that were two mentor coaches for me.
Exactly.
They become coaches without, start from the point. This normally generate in yourself the idea that you have to deserve to go to the next step, and we always start from the bottom because, I make the, if I can mention Angelo Lorenzetti, because it's in this moment one of the best coach that we have in the world. He starts, from nothing, and you really need to be on focus with what you want and put all your energy and study to get the next step and next level. And nobody's giving you anything because you're new. So it's generating in yourself the attitude that you really need to be knowledge, on what you do, and you need full energy of what you are. And it's like climbing a mountain. And even if you fail, or even if you have a problem, this way that you use to climbing the mountain make you stronger because you say, okay, I did until now, and then I can make a next step, and then you can make a next step.
Yes.
But everything is driven by the passion, like you always mention, the passion for volleyball that we all have, mixed with the capacity to follow the people, to the capacity to study and be on focus and be update and don't give anything just because, someone say, but be more scientific that you can do it. And the study part is, it was for myself an important part, but I'm sure if you speak with it, you speak with the other people, even Velasco know that, I have a good relationship, and anytime I listen him to speak, he's always related with something that he studied, and he's still studying, even if it's like, what it is.
Exactly.
It's because he grew up on this way, so he never stopped to make this way. And even if he reached the peak, and he was still studying and still trying to make it better. So it was like a light for us that show that everything is possible if you really committed in what you want, and of course if you have a talent in somehow.
It's so interesting what you're saying, because I remember my father, he was always studying and reading a lot of books, German books, Russian books, I don't know, about volleyball, about training methods. And I wanted to ask you now something about the volleyball styles, because or training styles, because in the past years we have the Japanese style, the Asian style, we have the Russian style of volleyball, then came the Brazilian style, with this identification each one of these styles. But now via YouTube we can watch a lot of teams playing day by day, and maybe it's my opinion, but we don't see many different volleyball styles of playing. You see, for example, some players, Ngapet, for example, he plays different because he's like a Michael Jordan in volleyball, but all volleyball is very powerful. The middle blockers are so tall. The opposite players are so strong in attack. But like I told you before, in the 80s or 70s, there were very marked volleyball styles. What do you think about this now, and what are you doing as coach to make the difference?
Yeah, that's interesting subject, because before we had a possibility to connect the world in this digital new world that we have. So think that now it's so easy to have access to all kind of volleyball in every country, and if you are interested, you just digit something on YouTube, or you go and you can have a webinar, or you can go and see the other team and league. So this gives you an easy access to the top level model. So now if you want to study the top level model, it's pretty easy. No.
Yes.
At that time when I was starting, you say right. So we have different schools because in China and Japan they use the different style. In Russia they have different one, and in Europe and so on. And the connection was so few. Yes. And I remember when I was young, taking the car and go to see the Russian team play against Italy or something else. So now for something it's easier, but also now it means that the model is going to unify on one kind of model.
Yes.
Especially if you watch the top level. So if you watch the World Championship, and you can get all the Olympic Championship, you can get one model of volleyball, and then of course you find some different detail for each team, and details are determined by the different skill of players. So if you have Ngapet, or if you have Christiansen, or if you have something different, can make a small difference. But the model now is really unified.
Yes.
And this, this for something make it easier. But I had the chance in my past to traveling and go all around the world, and it was fun that sometimes you still find place where they belong on their own style. I can tell you the example of Korea when I was there.
Yes. Okay.
And I was surprised, and for me it was a special exercise. Because I put myself into the video and download the league and study the league to understand which were the difference between their own style and the top level style. So when I started this season last year, I tried to identify what they used to do well, what they can do better. And try also to show to the players that there is another way that they can do the stuff. So they can do the technical skills, so they can improve the technical skills on different way. So it was very interesting, because often you find in the culture something so strong and so close that the people are not so open to make something different. But even here in Turkey, I'm here and I understand that the players used to do something on their own way. So it's a challenge for us. It's a big challenge for us, because you have to show them that they can make something different and they can stretch their own confidence zone. Because, players are made by confidence zone. So they used to be in their own confidence zone. But most of the time, the confidence zone is the strength and is the weakness point. So you need to be a good motivator and also a good psychologist to let them understand they can stretch their confidence zone if they want to make a step and be better. For example, I can tell you this because here in Turkey, we have a great motivation to step up and be better in Europe.
Yes, yes.
And I have to make a plan to let them make this step, and think about, okay, what's the top level on Europe? So what it is. So what we have to do to get better there, to reach that point. And as you know, be a coach is not just teaching skills. So this is the easiest part.
Yes, the basics.
You have to manage the human resources and try to be good on motivate the guys to take their best, and get their best. But this way is it's more complicated because it's the way that you cannot see. So you can see the skill. You just watch the video, you see the skill. But then if you want to make them better, then you have to go deeply and understand how you can generate more enthusiastic staff on doing something different or something better and make them focus better.
Exactly.
So if I can give you an example, one of the biggest point in volleyball in this moment for myself is to be able to improve your capacity on focus on stuff. So you move your attention from one point to another point. So be able to think and play on this way. It's a big effort if you are not used to do, if you don't usually do this stuff. So move your focus and practice your focus is really something at the basic of learning skill. And I think this is something where we still can do a lot in every way in every country. Maybe because I came from Italy and I see how the people grow up on the way. So it's easy to compare with some other country, but really the focus and the practice, the focus is what I say, to the key to make a big step forward.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a difficult job. I can't say.
No, but it's a fantastic job. I love it. I was always thinking it's a personal reflection about what you're saying about the focus, the specialization in volleyball today. I have one example that I want to tell you what is for me a great review of the volleyball way of playing. For example, I don't know if you remember the final, the European final between Russia and Italy in 1991 in Germany, in Berlin, between the team from Gardini, Luqueta, Toffoli, directed by Velasco.
The one that we love.
Yes, and against the Russian team, where Platonov, the coach, returned to this team, where younger players were like Fomin, like Kuznetsov, Runov, Sapega. And I saw this Russian team, and I saw this team against Italy, where they have a system where the middle blockers, Gardini and Luqueta, attack by the middle or fast balls. Bernardi and Cantagalli play second ball or high balls, and this was the attack system, for example. But the Russian team, you don't know where would attack a fast ball. Fomin, Runov, or sometimes Runov, who was the middle blocker, attacked via pipe over position 5. So I thought I always have thought about this. About the specialization. For example, middle blockers don't attack second ball, don't attack high ball, don't attack via pipe. And I always wonder, I have talked with many people around the world and always ask them why. Why can a middle blocker, like, for example, Muserski, who almost won the final in London in 2012, he was a middle blocker. Why can't teams where you see a talent, for example, your middle blocker can also play attack via pipe? For example, in Tokyo, we saw Lucas from Brazil attack behind the 3-meter line. So I always was thinking this, my personal reflection about this. Can the teams now involve or revolution the way of attack, for example, and changing this static position of playing, or it's impossible? What do you think about this, my crazy thoughts?
No. It's an interesting step because it's very unusual to see someone that is playing on different way, like you say. This because with Dak Beal, that he generate this system with the specialization and position forward reception and middle block and doing the middle blockers and so on. So that's the history of 80s and 90s. So they generate this model that is much easier to follow, because it seems that each player have to focus on we can say a few things, but you know, some depends from the position that you have. But this was the key to let play players that maybe they couldn't play on the generic system that they were before. So I remember, you know, like numbers of team that can play in different way. Then the specialization make another step when they then the FIVB invent the libero position that make another big switch.
You know, absolutely.
To make the specialization even more and more deep. But for example, I remember I was in Japan in 1980, I don't remember, 89, 87, 89. And they were already playing with in the school, they were already playing with the libero. And I was surprised, like I never see before. So like in 80, 87, 88. So this team school used to play with the men with the different shirts and play the way. This was one of the reasons they used this system was to give a chance to everybody to play volleyball. So in the school, you know, you don't have the capacity to recruit everywhere. So you have limited number of players. But there, with this possibility, so they give the chance to everybody to play. And this was also the will of FIVB when they make, you know, this new position. So it means to have two players that can jump and spike, but they can be good in different skills. So and at the same time, this system allowed the taller players to play because they don't have to play back row, and this make the job easier for them. So it means you can recruit just the tall guy and put in front and let them do the job. And you have to teach just two things to do, so block and first tempo attack. So you don't have to teach all volleyball. That this requires less time, and then if you have a physical skill, then you can, you know, go faster and better very soon and be successful even if you don't have, you know, years of volleyball in your background. So actually, this direction, it's very difficult to invert and come back to the old direction. I think in this moment is pretty impossible, but some other things you can start to see on volleyball, some kind of different evolution. For example, now you can see the opposite often come inside of reception. That is something that we did see and we started to see in the last 10 years most of the time. So because the jump serve becomes so important in the total amount of the game, so we try to make, you know, the reception better. So we had some other skills to other players. Also, the middle blocker can be involved on receiving the short serve, the short serve. That is making something. So even if we are on the way to specialize everything, we are still involving the game on different way. But yeah, of course, it's difficult to come back and see different. Even because Museski is Museski, and
he's one player. Okay.
So when you have a player like this, then you have a reason to change the system, because it can make a difference.
Exactly.
On the touch. And
maybe because I am a romantic about volleyball of the 80s and the 70s. I dream about this, and I have a conversation. I could interview also a few months ago Andrea Gianni, and he was an universal player, and he told me that he missed to play as a middle blocker in the front row attack. He missed this, and so I told him, okay, we were two who don't like very much this libero system, but it's volleyball evolution. It is normal.
No, but actually, he was the last universal player. You know,
yes.
Top of the world.
He was a fantastic player. Exactly. And I wanted to ask you, Roberto, about you told me you coached in Poland and Russia and in Korea. Now you're in Turkey. How was your experience in coaching or working with national teams? I know you worked with Mittelheinen in the German team and also with Australia. How was this experience for you to work in a national team?
Oh, absolutely interesting. I love to coach the national team. I was coaching when I was young. I was coaching the Italian junior national team, and I was involved in the plan that I love so much, because when you work for a federation, it's not about the club that you have to win tomorrow,
Exactly.
but it's like, come on, a federation you have to win too. But you can think more broadly. You know, for example, when I was in 2001, we had a very interesting program for the talent guys, so how to recruit the talent all around the country. That is the program that is still working, so they changed something, but this was a program that we started, more than 20 years ago. And so it's interesting because the federation job give you the chance to look forward, so not just watch what you're gonna do, but also to have a long-term vision if you are lucky to be. But with Vidal and the German national team, it was a short experience because Vidal just called me one day and he said, "What are you doing?" I say, "Oh, I'm having holiday. Why don't you come with us to play the World Championship?"
Okay.
And I say, "Well, why do you need me?" And then we were friends, but not so close friends. And he said, "Why don't you come and help me to play the World Championship?" Because Vidal is a very special personality. I hope you can find him and make a discussion with him, because
it was fantastic.
He's an amazing personality. So, and I say, "Okay, if you need my help, but are you sure you need my help?" And he said, "Yes, I need your help because you got experience everywhere." And it's like, "Okay, I will come and, give you what I can give you." So I was there just, observing with him. And he was always asking me, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And then I was just consulting him, saying, "Oh, listen, my opinion, we are doing this. We can do something better on this subject or the other subject." And he was always listen the assistant coach. So he was amazing on the way that even if he was like a young coaches, he called all the coaches with experience, not just me, but he called Daniele Bagnoli, that is like the most famous coach in Italy, successful in Italy, and Piazza and so on. So he called the coach with experience inside of his team, because that is something unusual, because normally the head coach tend to conserve his position and don't put all people around him, but he was very good. And so we generate a relationship that I think was useful. Was useful for a lot of things. And then we finished with a bronze medal for Germany. That was a great success.
Fantastic.
But he was the leader of this this idea to generate something different, and he break down all the habits, and he really generated something special there. So and I was happy to have this experience, and it gave me something.
And you work with Australia. How was this?
I worked with Australian, and there was pretty much different, because I reached the national team in 2015. With the goal to qualify for the Olympic Games in Rio. And so I worked there for 2 years, and we just missed the qualification for 2 points. That something can happen in life.
2 points. So sadly.
2 points make a difference to go to the Olympics, to go to the Olympics. But it was an interesting experience, because Australia is a special country. They have very interesting physical, talented guy.
Yes.
But unfortunately, they don't have a volleyball school there. So, and they don't have volleyball league. So my job in Australia was, to recruit the young guy and the old guys. And most of the time for the young guys, my job was to find a job in Europe, in a club in Europe, because they didn't have any chance to grow up and improve in Australia. We don't have a league there. So I was doing a job like, managing and trying to think broadly and help all the volleyball system in Australia, and connecting the players with the European club was like the key to make them better. But they still have a problem, recruiting guy, because they have rugby, football, Australian football, basketball, and so on.
Tennis. Yes.
But
yes.
It was a very, very interesting experience, because the guy, Australian, if you have any chance to meet Australians, you can understand they really think different than us. So they used to arrive into the gym without shoes, barefoot, because they used to be on the beach. So like a sense of freedom, very special sense of freedom. And so it was like, it was a human experience to try to bring them to the volleyball system and play with the sense of volleyball. But I don't regret. I mean, if I have a chance to come back, I would repeat the experience 100%.
And Roberto, I wanted to ask you again, a question. It's always a personal question, because my older son, he plays football, soccer. He loves soccer. He knows all the leagues in Europe, etc. And he always asks me why volleyball is not so famous as other sports. Even volleyball is the third massive sport in the world practice. So he asked me why volleyball is not so famous. Why not everybody tells you, in volleyball I know this, I know Bernard, I know Maria Luis, I know Kat Kirley. Because you ask him, another person in Chile especially, about Michael Jordan, he knows Michael Jordan, about Roger Federer in tennis, about the All Blacks in rugby, and I ask him, or many people, do you know some volleyball players of the past or from now? Nobody knows nothing. So even about the sport elements, I use, for example, a tennis shoe from Ivan Lendl. I never played tennis, but I use this trademarks or this collection from many players who are in different trademarks from sport. What do you think about this? You are in a volleyball major continent, but what do you think about this, and what can we do?
So actually, we have to think, all around world. This is probably true 100%. What you say, but if I watch every different country, they have different reason why it's happened. Because I used to talk with the Brazilian players, and we agree that Brazil, like Italy, we have to compete not with another sport, because football is not a sport. Football is a religion.
It's a religion, exactly.
It's a religion in Italy, yes. Like it's a religion in Brazil. So you can fight against the religion. This is the biggest point. But despite this, I can tell you that there are some countries where volleyball is very close to be is to be the first sport. For example, in Poland, is 100% the first sport. So the volleyball players are all
absolutely.
Also because it's an indoor sport, where in a cold country where you have like 6 months cold winter there. So, but not just for this, also because the Polish government make a very massive investment on volleyball with the television. Okay. And I remember when I was there in 2007, we already have television live for all games, and with 7-8 cameras.
This is so important. This is so important.
HD. And this was an investment by the government, because the government want to push volleyball as a clean sport, as a good model of sport. And this made a big difference on the growing of the sport there. But also in some part of Asia, like in Japan or like in Korea. So Korea volleyball is the same level, just behind the baseball, but it's much better than football. And
Yes.
I think everything is not everything, but most of the things come from the television. That is like the spotlight. You get the lights on, and television make everything much more important. You can see on basketball, you can see how important became the NBA now all around the world, because it has to be a sport for US to be a global sport where everybody can watch NBA now. You just connect with your computer and you can watch all the games. And they were skillful that they start to take players from all around the world, so that people start to be interested in NBA from Italy, because you have Italian players play there, the same from Australia, the same from different countries, and they make it like a massive improvement on the numbers of followers. So media always make a big difference. But I can tell you also one thing, that I should say, even if it's not my proper job, but volleyball became a women's sport, and it will be more and more women's sport than anybody. So this is the first sport of with number of participants, number of players all around the world, much far away better than basketball, football, and so on. So it's number one, and because you have the greatest country, there's now, you can't compare the women's volleyball in China with all the
Asia. Exactly.
And the same in Italy, and the same in US, where now you have the scholarship for the women's, and the women, and it's make the volleyball popular in the school and in the university, because you can have access to university thanks to volleyball. So I think it will be more and more a women's sport, and unfortunately I'm not working with the women, so I can't say anything more about this.
But we are all dreaming that volleyball would improve and be more and famous around the world. That's my dream. That's my project. Sure. Roberto, I wanted to thank you again for your time. I know in Turkey it's very late now. It has been a wonderful conversation. I could talk more than 24 hours about volleyball, because I love volleyball. I always have loved volleyball, and I wanted to thank you. And because it's so interesting what you're saying, to know your experience, to know what you're doing, what you have done. And so I wanted to send you all my good wishes from Chile to you. Have many success in Turkey and your next projects. I hope we can keep in touch. And so I wanted to thank you again. I'm very happy to talk to you and to know you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to invite me, and the conversation was beautiful, and always available anytime you want.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much.